Eventually. Welcome everyone to ACES 53 with Ed Parco and myself. Obviously, it's not Ed today. That's Joel. We'll introduce him here in a second. But what is ACES 53? When Ed was in college, he had a college professor who taught this idea behind sales, and that was, what's the best hand in a deck of cards? It's 4 aces and then a joker. So what does ACES stand for? Attitude, commitment, enthusiasm, and smile. And then what's the joker? The joker is that special person who can come in, much like Joel today. What is our joker? It's someone who has a special skill or knowledge that they're going to share with everybody that will help you advance your business, your sales skill, you name it. So with that being said, welcome, Joel. How are you today?
Doing fantastic. Doing remarkable. I appreciate being on with you guys today.
Sure. So a funny thing about Joel and I is we actually met in the Centurion Lounge at the Miami airport after GrowthCon, right?
Yeah.
We may look equal in stature here on StreamYard, but in reality, Joel's, how tall are you?
I'm a midget, but
Yeah.
no, a 6'6". I think something along there. I get people to tell me I'm taller, but I don't think so. It doesn't, at the end of the day, I'm tall, and it, gives me good excuses to buy bigger cars and things like that.
Sure. So we met and we just have kept in touch because that was 7 years ago?
Yeah,
I think. So you're based in Nebraska, right? In Omaha, Nebraska.
Exactly.
Yeah. So we keep in touch. I used to go to Nebraska for my previous profession. And what I try and do is from time to time, I would take time to swing by their office and then catch up with them and their staff. So it's kind of fun to have you on today. Thank you for joining us. And
pleasure to be here. So
first part we're going to talk about is kind of your company, First Direct. You want to talk about what you got started with and what you're going to share with us today?
You bet. So my company, and the reason why Brian reached out to you, my company is a full service marketing agency. A little bit about my background. I started in the 90s in the data business, working for some of the big compilers of data, helping build lists and telemarketing lists for companies that were using that, helping companies get insights on who their best customers were and hygiening data, all kinds of stuff regarding data. And so fast forward to 2005, I started First Direct here in Omaha, Nebraska, and we're a full service agency. So we help companies find the right information, the right data, get the right insights, and then the right solutions to expand and grow their business. So our focus always is, hey, how do we get you in front of your right audience and with the right creative at the right time?
Mm-hmm. And what are some of the different ways that you actually help get people in front of their audiences?
So, some of those different ways, obviously, we look at technology. Technology has changed dramatically over the years. Back in the day, to get in front of the right audience based upon a certain mindset, you could say it's called the psychographic profile. It would be the mindset of somebody.
Right.
That profile, you'd use things like survey data. And those types of things. People would answer these long surveys. Believe it or not, like people would mail in these long surveys, answer all these questions, and then that information would be used to get in front of the right audience to really try to find people that are behaving a certain way. Well, as technology has changed, the need to target people hasn't, in that way hasn't changed, but really just the manner of which that survey is being done has changed. And that's called these little black boxes that we all carry with us called cell phones. Right. Mm-hmm. All of that behavior is gaining a lot of intelligence based upon what you like and what you don't like, where you like to shop, where you don't like to shop, right? Your preferences on apps and those types of things that interest you, that can be used more and more in today's marketing to really make sure that we're targeting the right audience. So if you're a flower shop, you're not worried about targeting people in the botanical garden because they already care about flowers. That's why they're going there. Right. But maybe you want to target people based upon other shopping behaviors, people that are going to the local beauty salon and spending a lot of money. Hey, they may spend a lot of money on flowers too. Sure. Those types of things. So building that intelligence is going to be critical more and more for businesses today.
So is it fair to say, like, if you wanted to learn sales skills and you want to learn some basic things, you can read older books because a lot of the basics of sales still apply today. Yep. However, if you read an old marketing book, you're talking about way outdated information, right? So originally, let's go back to the history of marketing. People had newspapers, radio ads. That was it. Then, of course, television came along. You could do commercials. Then, a lot of people became famous for buying infomercials late at night. Mm-hmm. There was direct mail, which is kind of making a comeback. It's one of the things you're going to talk about today. And then all of a sudden the internet was created, right? And started being used. So, and so then there was obviously Facebook advertising, then became Instagram advertising. Right now you've got TikTok advertising. So I think a lot of people get confused. I still get, emails every day about, are you doing YouTube? Are you doing this? Are you doing that? Right. So as a full service agency, how do you, and somebody comes in, let's say I'm starting a new business, or I want to really dial in my ideal customer, my ideal avatar. How does First Direct help them do that?
The first thing is obviously all of those different channels. Hey, if you can do all of those things, do all those things.
Sure.
But if you can't, if you don't have the bandwidth, right, and you can't do all those things, like, let's focus in on the key things. So let's take, for example, like a brick and mortar store. When you look at a brick and mortar store, hey, they're trying to get foot traffic into the physical store. Direct mail is still a powerful tool, but direct mail is not the only tool. You can actually improve your response rate by about 287%. Just by bridging the channels, like into Facebook, into social ads, right, and then into display ads, and even on smart TVs. So you mentioned like a lot of things in marketing, like, hey, you had these late night infomercials, all these things that really it hasn't changed, but the way that we can execute and the way that we can target to more intelligently spend the ad budget, right, that's what's really been enhanced quite a bit.
So it's going from shotgun approach to sniper approach, right? You can get way more specific.
You could have done the sniper approach in the past, but it's much easier to do that sniper approach now because we have more data to work with, right? We have this thing called what we've all heard of probably, big data, right? Big data is that big thing that's basically, it doesn't make sense unless you know how to look what you're looking at. That's really what big data comes down to. It's like, it could mean a lot of different things. We could look at data from, you and I could both look at data 2 different ways, just simply because we're trying to glean something different from it. For example, we have these devices right here, and that can be used to identify that, hey, I like to shop at Target versus Walmart. However, it can also be used in another way. This is where big data comes in. It can also be used in another way to verify that transaction you just did at Target is you, based upon your pattern, right? Based upon that pattern. So that's how some of that data is used. But what I believe we really want to focus in on is how can businesses use that type of data or that type of thinking and approach to grow their business right now. So how First Direct helps them do that is we start to dive in first to identify, well, who is your audience? Like, what does your audience look like? And, sometimes customers don't know it. They're like, well, I don't know. They're mothers.
Everyone.
Yeah, they're everyone, right? And the reality is that the people that shop at one location are slightly different than people that shop at another location, even though they sell the same product, right? So we have people that'll say, well, hey, everybody shops within 10 miles of my location. Anybody within 10 miles? Well, 10 miles is a really big area. And there's a simple principle that we want to apply here, is that no trade area is circular, right? There's not such thing as a circular trade area. And to kind of like demonstrate that, I got a couple screen grabs here that I can show.
Absolutely. I'm a visual learner, so that's awesome.
Right. Let's see if it lets me here.
All right.
I got to grant some permissions here. 1 second. Let's see if it lets me here. All right. Let's do that again here. Share screen. And grab the right one. Hang on a second.
Sure.
Oh, there it is. Okay. All right. So if we're looking at, I don't know if that's showing up or not.
No, it's not showing up on my screen. So that's the only downside.
Oh, downside. All right. So you could look at for example, you could look at 2 locations. I think it's a permission thing, so I apologize on that.
Sure.
If you look at 2 locations, for example, they could be literally a quarter mile apart, less than a quarter mile apart. And the trade area that one attracts is completely different than the trade area of another.
Okay.
So you could look at, for example, the example that I was going to show was a Sleep Number and a mattress firm that's here in Omaha over off 168th and Center. Let's see if this maybe lets us do it now.
Might just do it under your account, not ours.
Yeah, that's okay. So If you want to see more examples of what I'm talking about, by all means, reach out. I'll have something put together. Everybody can get that.
Sure.
But you can look at those trade areas, and one location, just because the Sleep Number is a little bit different product, right? They attract a whole different demographic of customer. Whereas the Mattress Firm, they attract a completely different demographic of customer, although there's some overlap between the two. So when we look at those two things, let's say, for example, we got a client that's going to be opening up a competitor location across the street from those two locations, incidentally.
Sure.
And so when we want to try to figure out, like, hey, what is the best trade area for our client to focus on? Like, where should they most impactfully spend their budget?
Well,
right?
So real fast, what's a trade area? You've mentioned that a few times, but what is a trade area?
So a trade area is going to be the area that your business can pull customers from.
Got it.
Or it has an influence into, right? So, for example, my trade area is, well, frankly, could be the whole world, but it's more accurately down to the United States, and probably in some cases more accurately down to a number of key metros where most of our clients are being pulled from, like New York and Chicago and Omaha and Denver and a couple other places, right?
Right.
Where our clients concentrate. If we're looking at a brick and mortar store, well, people will only go so far to buy a certain product.
Right.
For example, that's why you see multiple coffee shops, miles apart, is because people will not drive, 3 miles over here to grab the coffee, but if it's within a mile, they'll go grab it.
Right. So a good example, because you're talking about brick and mortar stores, and here Ed's going to jump in just a second. We'll add him in. So we're talking retail stores, restaurants, bars, coffee shops, anywhere that somebody will physically come visit. Then they have to figure out how willing are people to make it that distance of travel, right? So living here in Dallas, there's a very popular restaurant because of the view right now called Monarch, and people will drive 45 minutes for that phenomenal view. But if it's for a cup of coffee, or it's something they can get anywhere that's almost like a commodity, right? Then that distance is going to be shorter. Is that a fair way to say it? Okay.
No, 100%. 100%. Like, there's certain behavioral patterns of consumers out for any product, from flooring to mattresses to coffee to dining out. And dining out's a little bit of an exception, because if it's just simply, you're run of the mill, people are not going to drive across, Houston to go to a McDonald's.
Right.
Okay. But if it's a one of a kind, that's a whole different ballpark.
Sure.
Right.
I'm going to pause for 1 second, and I'm going to bring in Ed real fast. So Ed has joined us. Welcome.
What about In-N-Out? Will they go across town for In-N-Out?
if we don't have an In-N-Out here in Omaha, so I might just drive across town just for the In-N-Out.
Yeah. And back to the reason you have to get back out of the Chrome and then back into it to get you to be able to show the stuff. Sorry.
Yeah. So we'll know for the next time he's on. It's perfect.
New MacBook. So
no, it's just because of StreamYard. If you haven't ever given it permission, it's very unique. It wants that.
Okay. No, 100%.
Well, if you
as you can tell, I watched everything on the way back, so I apologize for being late.
Hey, Joel, if you want to drop and you want to rejoin, we can do that. Or if you want to talk to it, what do you feel like?
Yeah, let me do that real quick, because I think that would actually help a lot of people see, exactly what we're talking about there. As far as
you're going to torture people and make them just listen to me and Ed for a minute.
That's all right. They're used to that anyway.
That's right.
Perfect. I'll be right back. We'll be right back with you guys.
All right. So when he comes back, one of the things I want you to bring up is about the because you haven't been talking about what it is we're talking about, which is I can't even think of the word. What is he talking about last night?
Local marketing. We're going to get into
about the geofencing and I think that's important to get into, because you guys are halfway through and you haven't even touched on it.
Yeah.
I want people to understand why he's here and how important it is to know. Sure. Add it to you, because back to your statement when you were saying about if you read an old marketing book, the only thing that's changed is you can actually get so much closer now. So when I used to do direct mail, when we'd send out to houses who had mortgages, we could never tell what their interest rate was,
right? Because
it didn't record that. You have to go by time and kind of figure, well, same thing now, it doesn't record it, but more closely what that number is by what date it is and that kind of stuff of the year. And you can grab other information and add other stuff in, and that makes it so much better.
Yeah,
So,
well, and that's what when we were talking about before. Like, I remember the first books I ever read, it was like, oh, well, if you really want to find your target audience, you have to go find an industry magazine
all that,
that
man.
is in that industry. All
Yeah.
right.
So what we were talking about is when I said to him about his comment about marketing books, I'm like, the difference is what you said is it's pretty much the same. It's just you can get so much closer now and add so much more data in to get to that person, so your cost is down. Because what direct mail cost is versus online cost now with targeting leads and everything, it's pretty close. It's expensive
Yeah.
to
Right.
get that person. Yeah.
But see, direct mail, here's the interesting thing for people to think about, though. Just direct mail still has a higher return on ad spend than other channels.
Yeah, because nobody's doing it.
Right. It's that's number one. So the mailbox is a prime place. But if you really think about like what direct mail, when you I'm just gonna grab a sticky note as an example. It's like when you get a mail piece in your box, I now get more screen time with you than I do with a digital ad.
Right.
And make it a postcard. They have to read it before they throw it away.
Exactly. Well, exactly.
That's why I did postcards and
Yeah.
larger size postcards, so that sticks out from everything else. And so as they're like throwing away, they're reading it. And oh, I actually might need this.
Right. Well, and yeah. So there's creative ways where you tie all those things together. And so like the strongest approach for any business trying to grow right now, and businesses have all different types of budgets, but if they have a small budget, going back to your question, Brian, like when clients come to us, if they have a smaller budget, we're going to lean them more towards online strategies, right? We can incrementally do it. We can test messaging. We can do that much, in a much more rapid scale versus on direct mail. It's like, you got to be able to have the patience to test that messaging across a number, and then also put into play, like, how are you going to measure that?
So you brought up a little bit before, but before we go into, and you're starting to talk about geofencing and geo-targeting, what do you wish that people already knew about their business and or their audience before they came to you? What mistakes would you save people before they, let's say I'm going to hire you.
Right.
What do I really need to know besides we talked about, hey, who's my avatar? How specific do we need? Like, do I need to know how much I'm going to have for budget? Do I need to know what's my product? What really helps you when somebody walks in the door to then help them?
Right. No, that's a good question. So number one, budget's a very important one, right? Because how long can you sustain that budget? So, I've got a lot of small business owners, they come to us and we spend more time just simply strategizing and coaching them versus doing anything for them, because they're at a point right now in their business, anybody that's maybe, less than 3 million, in their business, where, hey, they need to focus on the fundamentals of sales, right? And it might be the old fashioned, let's pick up the phone and call. That's where they need to start first. So understanding their customer, hey, what demographics are important to that customer? Is it age? Is it gender? Are they married? Are they not married? Do they own a home? Do they don't own a home? Obviously, like if you're a flooring store, they need to own a home,
right?
Because typically renters are not going to replace their carpet. They might buy a rug, but you're not going to make millions selling rugs unless you're a complete rug emporium, right? But if you're a mattress store, like we work a lot in the sleep space, if you're a mattress store, everybody sleeps,
right?
Renter or homeowner doesn't matter. Now it's just a matter of getting to the right price point of demographic. So if you're selling high-end mattresses, somebody that's making $50,000 a year is not going to afford it. Most likely. Not always, but most likely. So I would say understanding that demographic. If you're a business that's starting out or you're a business that is established, if you don't know what those demographics look like, make sure you have good, clean data, name and address information, because we can dive into that, provide intelligence, and find out what are the leading characteristics that actually really matter. So we call that an enhanced lookalike report. And it's a very deep report. It goes across about 30 different demographics, but it gives us clear pictures of what does matter and what frankly doesn't matter.
Okay. So if somebody comes to you, they have an idea.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah, go ahead.
New here. Thank you. All right, so with that information, are you creating lists from it, email lists, mailing lists, or what are you doing?
You can. So with that type of intelligence, you can create a mailing list, you can create an email list, a calling list, but at the same time, we can use that also for building audiences for digital marketing. So we can use the same intelligence. For example, that we use to pull the list. And then we use that to actually generate and build our online audience as well. So now I'm touching that consumer, in the late night hours that they're awake. Like you mentioned, hey, those late night infomercials, Brian, earlier, right? So we can day part the advertising there, then hit them in the mailbox as well. And then also too, if we know, hey, the people that drive home late at night, well, then let's make sure that we also time out the digital out of home displays, like on the big billboards that you see. Let's buy that time, but just during the late night hours when somebody's driving home, right? If our demographic is maybe they're a day sleeper, well, that means they're a night driver, right? So
if they're second shift hospital, something of that nature, third shift worker.
Exactly.
Yeah, vampire. You mean an emotional vampire or a physical vampire?
No, they work at night, They sleep during the day.
Right.
Yeah.
So
but,
I would say with to that point there too, it's like just keep things simple, because really the marketing hasn't changed in a lot of ways. You're still selling to a person.
Right.
Even in business, what we would call B2B, you're still selling to a person. Right now, it's just figuring out, well, what channels does that prospect respond on? Not what you care about, but what channel do they respond on? Do they care about? It may not be social media. It may not be direct mail. It may not be email. Right. So we want to take that in consideration when we start to learn more about what the customers look like.
And it doesn't hurt to hit every avenue, just in case, because I mean, the two things here, they buy for pleasure or pain. So you really need to know who your client is, period, before you do any of this stuff. And I think that's one of the things that you work on with your clients first. It's like, who is your perfect client? Who is that person? And then when they say it's everybody, you go, okay, well, that's not the case. So let's narrow that down a little bit to what it really is. And okay, now what do you do? Do you give them pleasure or do you take away pain? Right.
Right.
To get,
A/B test it. Yeah.
No, and you're right. Like we've had clients that we had a really high end landscaping company, and I'm like, we really need to try TikTok. He's like, I don't use TikTok. I'm like, it's not about you. We're after the mom who's making the decisions on the high end landscaping because she wants the pool, right? We want her to see your name more and more. That's what we want.
Yeah, but it just gets really like 60% of my audience is 13 to 17-year-olds.
That's because they identify with you mentally, Ed. So.
No, that's everybody. I don't care who it is. That is the audience on TikTok. That's the majority audience, but you need them to like what you do so that everybody else sees it.
Yeah.
I'm going to sound like a grumpy old man on this one, but
I don't have a problem with that. But you're like, when you're looking at, okay, who am I? And you're like, my demographics I'm going for is down here and they're only like 10% and 7%. I understand why people go, I don't do TikTok. I don't understand it. Well, what you don't understand is it's amazing avenue for doing stuff.
Yeah. I don't remember where I was the other day, but I literally watched
he's
every
old.
worker.
He keeps forgetting.
Yeah. There was like the security guy that was there. All these people were on their phone doing TikTok right in the middle of the day. And I'm like, what did we used to do? Like, I know we all screwed around and didn't work all the time, but it's amazing me how blatantly, like, people are walking around like, and just zooming on TikTok the entire time. It's nuts.
They actually used to talk to people.
Oh, that's
instead of doing the TikTok. Yeah.
Right.
They used to have conversations around the water cooler and other places. Now they just don't talk to each other.
All right. There you go.
All right. Yeah, there you go. We're done.
Yes. All right. So a different question is, marketing is such a generic term, right? Like, oh, you just need to get, there's sales and there's marketing.
It's a catch-all.
Yeah. With First Direct, one of the things that we talked about that while you're here today is geo-fencing, geo-targeting.
Right.
What is it that you do that you, in your mind, sets you apart from these other generic marketing companies?
I think what really sets us apart is the hyper focus on being data centric when we do these things, right? And getting actionable, measurable results that clients can say, hey, yes, I got a return on my ad spend.
Right.
There's a lot of different types of agencies out there. There's content agencies. They'll make you lots of great stuff. There's social media agencies. They'll manage your social media account, and their KPI is, their key performance indicator is growing your social following usually. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So our focus is that marketing channels that are going to get people walking in your door buying your product or service, and really focusing on, hey, what does your customer look like to do that?
Mm-hmm.
Versus just simply focusing on maybe one of the other things. We take clients all the way through the process of the right data, the right insights, the right solutions for execution. So that could be direct mail, could be TikTok, or YouTube ads or Google ads. It could be a variety of those things,
mm-hmm.
but really trying to not let one of our preferences skew that approach, right? If Ed's best customers only were on Snapchat, well, guess what? Whether Ed likes Snapchat or not, that's going to be our number one recommendation. Right. So it's helping our clients to really see like, hey, where do your customers dwell, and how can we break through the noise for you with your customers? Got it.
Ed, questions?
No, it's not. It's just more of a statement. The problem these days is there's so many places you can go.
Yeah.
It's picking where, if you go back in time when one of your statements about marketing, you only had a few avenues. You had phone book, you had newspaper, and you had maybe direct mail. Now you have that. Well, the phone book's nowhere to be found, but the other two are still there. And then there's other stuff you can do. And the problem is, I think people just don't know. There's so much to do that they kind of go, I'm stuck. I don't know what to do. Everybody tells me I need to be on Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube, and TikTok, and also now on all these other things.
Right.
Well, I don't have the bandwidth to do all that. So you just pick something and be consistent on it.
I would say there's like, lay the framework. A lot of times when we have clients that are even like $5-10 million companies, like their framework isn't even there. They don't have a good Google My Business set up. They don't have, landing pages set up. They're not tracking certain things. I've seen large corporate sites that don't even have Google Analytics, and Facebook Pixel put on their sites. Like, oh my goodness, like you could be getting so much value out of this right here. Mm-hmm. They've been amazing at building a business, but now they want to market. Now they want to approach it differently. It's like, these are critical components. So one of the first things, Brian, that we always do with Ed with clients is we walk them through. We kind of do basically an audit. Number one, well, who are your customers? But then also, two, what's the framework that you have in place to communicate with those customers or communicate with new prospects? We want to clean up the image basically as much as possible for somebody.
And to give an idea, like you and I were just batting ideas around one day, and you're like, hey, you need to get your website on Cloudflare because it takes too long to load your information. So it's not just that you're going to create the marketing material. You do a full audit of, hey, these are the things we see of what's your funnel look like? What's your website look like? It's more than just literally sending out mailers or creating an ad, right?
Right. No, and absolutely. The reason why, think about, why does a car dealer offer financing? Because if you can't get the money for that vehicle, you're not going to buy a vehicle off the lot.
Right.
So
and they make more money.
Right.
On the car when they have the financing.
Exactly. So, for us, like, I want to clean up that framework.
Right.
Because if that's the break in the dominoes that doesn't let something be successful, well, it's going to be a short-lived relationship.
Right.
So I'd rather control all those aspects and help them take control of that versus listening to a lot of the white noise that's out there of focus on this and focus on that. And, I've got good friends that I got a buddy up in Wisconsin that has like an $8 million electrical company. Mm-hmm. And he got convinced by somebody to blow up his Instagram by 20,000 followers. I'm like, what 20,000 followers in the 5-state area are going to use your service or, products?
Right.
You do cell phone towers, right? And it's like, I don't know. I was told I needed to get more social media followers. So yeah, I paid for it. I'm like, I get that. And, but those are things, figuring out like, what's the realistic marketing that your business needs to grow. It's not everything always.
Sure.
Yeah, he would have been much better on LinkedIn.
100%. Yeah, absolutely.
But unless he's going to go speak or something, then that's why you have the Instagram.
Yeah. No, 100%. So it's using some common sense when you start to break down, how are you going to grow your business? And so that's where, the conversation comes into, as far as like, how do you find that audience? And that goes back to the geofencing and framing. There's unique ways to find that audience with the right behavior pattern, and understanding that those audiences could look different.
And so we are going to talk a little bit more today, but there is an article on your website, right? That if people want to dive in deeper into geo-targeting and how it works. There's up there, and you guys are working on regular newsletters out to anybody who signs up, just teaching people about what you're doing, right? So Ed and I talked on Tuesday about people need to get their hands a little bit dirty and understand marketing before they pay anybody who has a good pitch, right? To really know what's out there. For somebody who was to come to you brand new, and let's say brick and mortar, let's do a brick and mortar, and then let's do an online presence. What's a realistic turnaround time? You'd mentioned earlier, if they're brick and mortar and you do mailers, you're looking at 3 months, right? Or something like, how do those two different types of businesses show a response?
Right. So like on a brick and mortar, so like when we start with an engagement with a brick and mortar client, we go for a minimum ideally of 6 months commitment.
Okay.
Just simply because we want to have that established consistency. Because like I mentioned before, undoubtedly we're going to have to do some cleanup first.
Sure.
Get their brand aligned. Some people don't have a brand board, but 3 to 6 months. But it's a combination of, for example, when we're doing a grand opening sequence for some of our clients in the sleep industry, we start a warming phase just right before they do a soft open, just to start to build small market awareness. But we target that with data using geoframing that we've talked about in this conversation today. We target that with data on the same footprint that we're going to be touching with direct mail when they get ready for their grand opening. So it's about using these strategies in a sequence, right? In a time sequence, along with other things like social engagement with your local chamber. All right. You can't just simply say, well, I pushed a button for advertising, so everything should flow in. These are all things in marketing that have to work together, right? From your attending chamber events to making sure that you're also being, advertising to the same audience. Like you and I, Brian, met in the 10X community.
Correct.
Right. So I'm going to show up at every single one of Grant Cardone's 10X growth conferences. But in between then, I'm going to advertise to that same audience on Facebook, on display. I'm going to retarget them with connected TV ads so that by the time I show up, whether we've ever met before, people are like, that guy looks familiar.
Right.
That's what I'm after. So, and you can do the same thing with your business brand by putting that together. So from a brick and mortar standpoint, our encouragement would always be a strong combination of digital along with traditional direct mail. And of course, having your sales team trained to follow up. On the online side, it's going to be online lead generation, form fills, and a great sales team that's going to follow up and make those calls. Because if you can get somebody to just push the button and fill out the form, like that's a big step right there, just to get them, let alone if you're on a brick and mortar, getting them to walk in the store. So a good follow-up strategy too. All of this marketing means nothing if you don't have good sales strategies as well.
Right.
Or you don't pick up the phone.
Exactly.
That's the biggest. I hear it all the time. Why'd you come through it? Because you guys answered your phones. Yeah. The easiest thing.
Crazy.
Yep. Imagine that. Answer the phone.
Shocking. You spend all this money to get your phone to ring or whatever you do, and you just don't answer it.
But it might be a telemarketer.
Or you answer it wrong, frankly, too.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, yeah. That's why I have certain people answering our phones.
There you go.
So I've learned a long time ago, don't let anybody answer your phone.
No, that's definitely a true statement.
It's not important to just have the phone answered. It's got to be answered properly. And then, so.
I just did a post about that this morning. We're talking about like
it's
IVR.
not about you, Brian.
Oh, we're talking about this. This is IVRs, right? Replaced a lot of reps, but who did it not replace? The people that know how to answer the phone and how to handle the call.
Right. It's just more, everything's becoming more specialized.
Right.
As AI happens and things happen, now people want certain things when they want it, and you need to have that. So.
One thing I'd say on AI though too is business owners need to be careful where they don't get sucked down that rabbit hole as well, thinking that they have to do AI everything.
No,
because you got people creating these AI prompt courses, programs, and everything else, and so it's like you're just getting lost in the noise again.
Right.
People are selling you something. That's all they're trying to do.
Selling you how to make. There's courses on how to make courses. And those people never actually built a real business.
Well, and that's what makes marketing so dangerous is look, I've read the books where they're like, oh, well, if you do this, you can immediately turn around. This is what saved my company with one funnel and then they don't go into how do you do it? Oh, well, you can hire us to do it.
Yeah.
And people don't really know what they're doing. There's several books out there like that, right? Webinars. Yeah. And then people are like, oh, well, you got to do organic marketing. Oh, well, you don't know how to do it. Well, we can do your organic marketing for you. I mean, it's a confusing subject to most business owners. Of everybody knows marketing and sales run in tandem. And people have an idea of how to do sales because they had to have closed something. And you can create a standard operating procedure, a script for sales, but marketing is a very nebulous thing to a lot of people.
Absolutely. No, it is. And that you mentioned something earlier as far as, we do put out information because we want to educate. Our intention always is an information assisted approach where if we can educate somebody on the right thing, like if you came to me, Brian, and you're like, hey, how do I do this thing? I'd rather educate you the right way. Mm-hmm. So now when you call Ed and Ed tries to bamboozle you, right?
Hey, that's that.
You're like, hey, what questions to ask, right? And I think that's where, for business owners today, I think the ethical thing is make sure that, we help the other business owners know how to ask the right questions and, how to filter out what's good and what's bad.
Well, the good people will tell you everything and not hide anything. So you understand what you're going to do and you teach it, and then they want you more. It's the ones who don't tell you all this stuff. And I'm just going to throw this out, but it's just like my podcast, Internet. I tell people you have to talk about failure. And then they come on and they don't talk about a failure, and they talk about all this other stuff that, you need the curiosity. And it's like, no, you understand. This is what we want. And the same thing with business owners. You need to let them know what you need, so they're educated, understanding what you're going to do for them, so they understand everything.
Right.
Give it away for free and they want it more.
There you go. And at the bottom of this link, there should be a place where people can sign up, by the way. Mm-hmm. And they get our weekly newsletter called The Vibe, where we're layering on there basically no nonsense information that they can have a tidbit they can take away right away, learn what the trends are, have those things explained, right, and kind of break through the noise.
So I'm looking on here. I mean, you guys have articles all the way back to 2021. Email marketing opt-ins explained, all the reasons that you need to know your buyer's persona, 4 things to do to market to those who are under 25. So there's a ton of information in the link that's up on the screen right now.
Absolutely. The content side of things, that's one area, again, going back to, I'd rather educate somebody, show them how. That way they can go verify that, because I would hope they go Google it and say, hey, is this actually real? This guy Joel is telling me about? Absolutely. Because then then that's how we get the business.
Well, and something that I appreciate about everybody in your business and in your office, I've been there, I've met the people, very friendly staff, everybody's on board. I like that you guys also are constantly attending new events to keep learning what else is new. So you've been to boot camps, you go to different events so that you're constantly trying to stay on top of what the latest thing is, because some people are like, oh, I got a funnel and that's all I need. I bought this funnel software, I bought that funnel software, and I'm going to be in the 3 comma club in no time, but you guys, hell, half the time I talk to you, it's, are you even in the office, or are you out learning how to grow your business? And I think that's something a lot of people don't keep front of mind. They start a business, they get wrapped up in the business, and they forget that they have to learn themselves to grow the business.
Absolutely.
That's why Ed and I are friends and are on here, is we all go and attend events. We met at a speakeasy, one of the Steve Sims events, and then he goes to different events. We come back, we share notes. My notes are better, but we talk about what
you write better
when we went there.
Prettier handwriting, right?
He types faster. Yeah, he has perfect notes.
Yes,
I don't. That's why I go, can you send me your notes, Brian?
Thanks. Yeah, exactly.
I just focus now on the event and let him send me the notes later.
I just go to another event. I walk. My goal every time I go to an event is, can I walk away with maybe 2 or 3 things? Just that's it. That's all I care about. If I spend, $5,000 for a ticket, $10,000 for a ticket, if I can walk away for 2 or 3 things, then that's a value to me.
So I only want 1. Just give me 1.
He's good about
the reason is you can't really implement more than that when you come back. And if you get too many things, you'll never do anything. It's like how many people bought Go High Level and it's still sitting there and they haven't done anything with it.
100%. I see it all the time.
Yeah.
They're like, well, I got that. I'm like, well, it's not about having that. It's about knowing how to use it.
But I bought ClickFunnels. I bought Go High Level. I also bought, that's one that is really tough right now, is you get just beat up with emails and everything else, but oh no, this is what you need. No, well, it integrates with that. It's tough at times to not have someone just say, this is what you need, versus the questioning nonstop, what do I need?
Right.
You know?
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, so it comes down to, again, like what will actually move the needle for you?
Mm-hmm.
Like, just sometimes step away and simplify it down, change your location so you can get some perspective. Because, for a lot of businesses, like we always look at it this way. This is what we talk about a lot internally, is like that business that's working with us, it's their employees' blood, sweat, and tears that made that money that they're investing with us to help them make more money.
Right.
So you got to treat it responsibly and make sure that somebody else is not taking what your employees worked hard for. So when I go spend money, for example, I got to recognize that my whole team, they worked really hard for all that money that I'm going to go spend.
Mm-hmm.
That, workshop or conference that I'm going to.
And Ed talks about this, attend events outside of your industry.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's, you get to meet people, and you don't get jaded with the wrong view.
Mm-hmm.
You can get rose-colored glasses because all you see is one perspective.
I just look at it, then you can bring stuff back to your industry that nobody else has, right? It's a new phase. I do, two different ones. One's in my industry, one's outside. The one in the industry is about how I do things with that, and that's how it's supposed to be. But when I'm doing marketing or anything else, I don't want to do what everybody else is doing in my industry.
Right.
Oh yeah. You got to figure out how to disrupt it. I'm all, for any business, I think you got to look for what are the new ways that you can disrupt things. What will make without causing the need for new laws, right?
Right. How far can you bend it without breaking it?
Exactly. Responsible. Be responsible. Be ethical, but don't play fair.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Don't make friends.
Customers can be your friends.
I didn't say your customers. We're talking about industry people.
Right.
Yeah.
I know and then that's a conversation that we had here recently. We with one of our clients, they're opening in a new market, and we know that there's a really big competitor that's in that market. And it's like, well, we already know that competitor is only going to play one game, and that's the price game.
Mm-hmm.
Well, guess what? Let's attack first. Let's go after service, because price will always be beaten by service.
And that's one of the things that Ed and I have been talking about, is when you only go on price, then you have to start lowering your price to stay competitive. And it's just a race to the bottom. No one wins with that philosophy.
I like the comment that Grant Cardone says. He'll say, like, hey, I guarantee I will give you the best price.
Mm-hmm.
And people misunderstand that, I think, sometimes. But the best price is stacked with what you're giving with it, not just the product you delivered.
Right.
So
the value received for the money exchanged.
Exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So if you increase your value, like you're, oh my goodness, it changes things overnight for you.
Mm-hmm. Ed, what other questions do you have?
I don't have a lot of questions today. I watched the first 15 minutes while I was coming in, and I was like, okay. And I've talked about the couple things I wanted to talk about, but the big thing is you can't really go. You guys been on for 43 minutes, and you really can't go super deep in what this whole process in 43 minutes. No, you can only generically, or scrape the surface a little bit, because I want to know more about not necessarily geofencing, but what more can I do that I haven't done? Because one of the things I have a problem with is Go High Level. I've seen a few different companies who are in my industry who are using it and selling it to us, but I don't like certain parts of it that they've done. And it's like, okay, do you want to go and create your own? No, I don't.
Right.
Because that's a lot of work that,
Right. Well, it's just on that, like maybe it's learning to use the tools right. So, and again, that's where, if you know what tool and how to use it, take the time, especially as business owners, take the time to learn the tool. Take a moment right now, learn the tool, right? That way you can always inspect what you expect from somebody else if they're going to deliver the service. Like if you don't want to, you're like, man, I got the Go High Level thing, but can your company, Joel, help me with this? Yeah, we can help you with that. Well, I would hope that you know the product first, so that way when we start doing things, we're actually doing our job.
Well, see, and I learned it from I found it at another company, and they were, because I met them through the funnels and everything. I was like, wow, this is amazing what they're creating. Well, little did I know it was go high level.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And then I'm like, okay, well, this is good. What else can be done from this? So
Yep. Just be creative, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Don't limit your thinking.
Correct.
So if anybody reaches out to you, Joel, obviously we've got your website down here at the bottom. Where is a good place for someone to start? So you mentioned earlier, large companies you work with, 3 million and up. You also work with people who are just getting started, their first brick and mortar store, their first business. What's the best way for people to figure out if you're the right person to work with?
Right. And real simply, go to our website, give us a call, schedule a time, book a time with us, and we'll walk through it. We work with all businesses. Some businesses of different sizes are going to be more ideal for different strategies, just simply because of the ability to have the budget to spend on that. You can't grow a $10 million business on $500 a month, for advertising.
So 550,
maybe 550.
600,
600. I mean, if you can pump out the social content, maybe so on or something like that. But maybe send that 600 and get 10,000 followers.
Right.
Yeah, but then the problem is they don't engage.
Exactly. That's the problem.
And back to that whole thing when you were talking about learn it, then that way you know what they're doing. Well, that's what I spent there's so much AI software on how to cut up video now and to do the information for the posts and stuff. And I've been playing with that for the past 2 weeks. And it's like, this is so easy now. It's going to get to a point where, okay, this is exactly what I want you to do. Now use these two software. Now it doesn't take 40 hours a week. It takes 20 hours a week to do what I need. Yeah,
exactly. Use the tools to accelerate, amplify.
Yeah.
So we use that all the time with our team as far as, make sure that they have access to certain AI tools. It's not taking away their job. It's to accelerate their job.
Make it easier for them to do other things.
100%.
Yeah. My biggest problem now is it's just all the waiting time. When you drop it in there and you have to wait so long for it to be done.
5 or 10 seconds.
I don't know if you've done that. Yeah, exactly.
Like 60 seconds. It's way too long.
No, like the video takes a little bit longer than 60 seconds when they cut it up multiple stuff. But I mean, and the other issue is that I use ChatGPT for so long by myself, set up my own little prompts and just go. And now there's companies who come out with you, drop it in there, But the problem is you run out of time with them. You know what I mean? You go through so much of their time that it's like, okay, well, what was better? ChatGPT for $20 a month with your own prompts, or all these other companies at a couple $100 a month. Yeah, that's all you have to figure out.
ChatGPT and Bard, both very powerful platforms, right?
OpenAI.
I use ChatGPT, quite extensively for just building query language and other coding stuff, right? So, I mean, if you're needing ideas from a creative standpoint, it's like all those platforms help get the juices flowing. Why would you not use them?
That's what we talk about all the time. It doesn't mean you have to, but you should know what it's capable of doing.
Right.
And there was a good quote by somebody that said, AI may not replace you, but the person who uses it will.
Yep.
And so why not?
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
And it makes your email sound so much better. Just got to be careful because it uses certain phrases.
That's what I was going to say. What's the phrase that you mentioned that I hope this is well received today or something like that?
Well, not only that one, there is like a drum roll, please.
Yeah, drum roll, please.
That's
I hope
all.
this email finds you in, good spirits, whatever.
Yeah,
right.
Who writes their email? I hope this finds you. It's like we don't.
Yeah.
So and with AI, don't use that to write your blogs or your ad copy. Use it to get ideas for the ad copy, but then start fresh.
That's what we're talking about. Personalize it. Yes.
Yeah, because pretty soon there's going to be AI to detect the AI.
It's already there.
Because there's the tonality within the AI that just doesn't have the human aspect.
So there's the AI that detects that you used AI. So then you have to use a third AI to scramble it up enough to fool the second one. It's just madness out there. It's a wild, wild west.
So. Exactly.
So what I use it for is I created the way I want it phrased. And then when I have the new guest or new whatever, I say replace this guest with this guest, and then they do it. All I have to do is copy and paste. It didn't create it; it just retyped it for me, so I didn't have to spend the time to retype it.
Perfect.
That's how lazy I am. I don't want to I don't want to type anything.
So, a question for you, Joel, is what is the number one marketing mistake that you see most people make?
It's going to sound really probably simple, but it's like they don't market.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
They stop marketing.
That's what I was going to ask if it was about consistency. Or
Yeah,
not. I was curious.
It's when things get a little tight, the marketing is the first thing that goes.
Which
and
is crazy.
it should not be marketing goes away. It could be a retool. It could be a fine tunement of approach. But this is, that's why, for example, and I think my screen sharing will actually work now.
Give it a shot.
If it does. I'm just going to share. Look at that. I think it does. Imagine that.
He just got to bring it in.
There we go.
Yeah.
So, if that helps. All right. So, if you're marketing, if you're tighter on budget, that's why data is so powerful, is because, understanding we were talking about these two different audiences, like this one right here is Sleep Number, right?
Am I missing something?
And
are you talking about what's in the little blue?
Yeah. So if you look at what
there
the
you
blue,
go. Okay.
like,
all right. We're looking for your cursor. Okay.
This was Mattress Firm's audience and where they've come from in the last 12 months.
Okay.
And this is where Sleep Number's audience comes from. Well, if you know the Omaha market, Sleep Number's footprint is a higher demographic from a financial standpoint. So, if you're a business and your budget's getting tighter, like, don't stop marketing. Market more intelligently. Don't advertise all the way over here, even though that's within 5 miles, right? So I got a 1 mile circle right here, a 3 mile and a 5 mile. Like, Mattress Firm's customers are not beyond 5 miles. They're just over 3. And they cover.
Make it rain in your marketing. Make it strategic.
Make it strategic. Make it use the technology today to be more laser targeted with where your ad budget goes. So when times do get tough, don't stop marketing. Just use some intelligence on your marketing.
Yeah, but if you do this from the beginning, then you don't have to worry about times getting tough.
That's exactly right.
Yeah, that's the thing, is people throw a lot of money at different things when they have a lot of money, and then when they start slowing down on money, they take it away, but they have not really looked at what they're doing.
Right. Because this is some pretty crazy cool stuff. If you look at like this screen, all these little dots, that's people.
Wow.
That we can actually use this intelligence, and I can say, hey, so maybe like you're going to buy some billboard space, some traditional billboard space. Well, if you know all your traffic's coming down here, but more of it's coming through here, like buy these billboards right here from Lamar or Link or whoever else has them.
So, and this is more of a nerd question because I've been to where you're located. So people who don't know, looking at that picture there, that little river that runs across, that's a different state, isn't it?
No, that's the Platte River.
Oh, is that Platte? Where is it? Because Omaha isn't that far to be over in Iowa.
So, right? So here's Iowa right here on this side right here. So there's the Missouri River, but then this is the Platte River.
Okay.
And if you know Omaha, like this is a lot of development area, sand pits and things like that, where they're putting multi-million-dollar homes.
Interesting. Okay.
And also then down here, that's again more multi-million-dollar homes and things like that are going out here. It's all being developed because we had Amazon and Facebook and Google move in, and so all this area now where my mouse is right there, like all that's being developed now. So there's a lot of opportunities that are going to grow. So if you see these things and you see where ebbs and flows go, it's like, yeah, you can market more intelligently. But you also learn things about different behavior patterns and those types of things that you can start to use and say, okay, don't just shotgun approach it and blanket every single buddy, but do that very strategically.
Very cool. Well, I know we're running up against an hour here. So what I'd say is we'll get some feedback, right? And let's have you back on to talk a little bit more on another date about what are some of the other services, what are some of the other tactics, how can you use social media marketing in addition to the geo marketing that we were talking about today?
Absolutely.
Geo-tracking, geofencing. Ed, questions?
No, I just want, if he comes back, to go in more depth of those items.
Right.
Right.
Well, now the screen sharing works. So
Yeah, exactly.
No, it's just people. It's one of those things. You have to give it authorization at first, and then get out and come back in.
yeah,
You
well, yeah, and it had it on my old computer, but IT
I know.
snafus and brand new machines. And
Right.
Yeah, I know. I spilled a margarita on my Apple and had to have a whole new one replaced, and I had to redo everything. I totally understand those problems.
I didn't have that good of an excuse. I just opened it and it fried. So, but
no.
Yeah. Well, they replaced everything in my Apple except for the bottom cover.
That's
like,
why you
why
can't
didn't you
have
just-
nice things, Ed. That's
Why
why
don't you just give me a new one?
right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, well, because they're got to keep those young kids in China happy.
There you go.
Yeah, everybody needs a job.
Right.
That's right.
Well, hey, we're butting up to top
All
of the hour. So, hey, Joel, thank you for coming on today.
Thanks for having me.
Joining. I know you were running around like a madman. And so, with that being said, everyone, we are ACES 53. The best way to support us, we do go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays at noon Central. What time for you, Ed?
10 Pacific.
I guess you're outnumbered. There's two of us here in Central Time Zone. That's why I got to go with that one first today. And then on Tuesdays is just Ed and I. And then on Thursdays, we bring in the Joker, who is the guest person who, like today with Joel, has special knowledge or skill to share with you all. So like us, follow us, ACES 53 on YouTube. And thank you, everybody, for joining today.
Yeah, y'all.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks.
Bye. Make it a great day.